Good morning, my name is Aaron Houghton and welcome to Morning Prime. Thank you so much for joining me. This is my daily Morning Prime routine, and once a week I share it with all of you and we do this together. So thank you so much for joining me. It is Wednesday morning, it is the middle of the week, and let's take a few moments for ourselves this morning. Morning Prime takes only about 15 minutes. And I look to try and get my mind and my body calm, positive, and prepared. And I picked tools from the Founder's First Workshop, Designing Morning Routine Worksheet, and from the Calm module that help get my mind and body calm in the morning as I'm starting my day. And I'm gonna share a little story with us as well today. Something fun for me to remember, and hope you find some value in it too, around the concept of preparation and preparing not just our bodies but our minds as well for what is to come. So let's start the way that I always like to start, with 10 clearing breaths. So go ahead and get comfortable in a place where you can have your feet flat on the ground. You can be laying down as well, works fine for this. But I think standing is maybe not as easy. So let's do seated or laying down. If you're sitting, feet flat on the floor, go ahead and get your back straight in your seat in a position. Usually I like to put my hands on my legs, and palms up is a way to signal to our bodies and our minds that we're safe and we can be vulnerable, we can be open with our body. We don't have to be protected, and helps us get into a little more of a calm mental state as well. So a clearing breath is a full breath in at kind of a medium speed. It's not super slow, it's not super fast. So we breathe in, we hold at the top for about a half second, and then we let go on the release. And the release is really about letting go. It's about just dropping everything, dropping our shoulders, letting it all fade away. Anything mentally we're holding on to, any physical tension that we're holding on to, we're trying to observe that tension at the top of the breath and release it and let it go as the breath drops out on the out breath. And for those who are familiar with yoga, this isn't a yoga breath where we're trying to create heat and energy and sound in the breath in and breath out. It's a really free and unrestricted breath in, and then the release is like a balloon being popped. It's not forceful, we're not pushing the air out, it's just boom, and all the air escapes. It may be a little faster than the in-breath because of that, and that is just fine. Don't worry about the sound that your breath makes. It is gonna make some sound. And so if you're around others in a place where you might be uncomfortable to make sound while you're breathing, maybe find a new place to do it, or just enjoy the fact that our breath makes sound, and that's normal, and that's just fine. So I'll count them out for us together. Go ahead and close your eyes. Let all of your air out. Breathe in. Half second hold at the top, and let it go. Breathe in. Half second hold and release. Breathe in. Hold, release. Breathe in. Hold at the top. And release. Let everything go. Breath 5 in. Half second hold. Let it go. 6 in. Hold. Let it go. Breathe in. Hold. Let it go. Breath 8 in. Let it go. And these last two, just try and think about, breathe in, holding, feeling that resistance at the top, all the things that we're holding on to, and then the release, letting it all go and just fade away. Think about your facial expression right now. Maybe tense your face and then release it so you can feel what it's like to hold tension and release it in your face as well. Breathe in, hold, last breath, and let go. You can return your breath rate to normal now. This is one of my favorite activities to use during the day because it's just 10 breaths. It takes 2, 3, 4 minutes depending on your pace of breathing. And you can continue it going longer if you need a little bit more. I feel so relaxed right now just after that simple practice. And like so many things in my life and discipline in general, I think about it on the front side and I go, you know what, I'm just gonna do it today because it's a habit and it's a pattern. I'm not convinced that I need it, or I'm not convinced that it's really gonna work for me. And then I do the process and I sit here like I'm sitting in this moment now going, oh my goodness, I feel incredibly relaxed. My arms feel, when I get really relaxed, my arms feel like heavy, or like they've, almost like they've, like Gumby arms. They've just sort of stretched and they're heavy and hanging longer down towards the ground than they were before. I have that sensation already, so that tells me that I've been able to calm myself down, and that's just a sensation I get. It's different for everybody, so you may have one that when you meditate, or when you find yourself on day 5 of vacation where you've finally been able to let go of everything and relax, there may be a way that you feel as well, and you can use that as a telltale sign that any other tool you're using on a daily basis might be working to get you to that calm state as well. I found that about 3 years ago, before I started these regular practices, it would take hours for me in a meditative session to get really, really calm, or at least I'd have to meditate multiple times during the day, maybe for 10 to 15 minutes each. So I'd have an hour of meditation under my belt over different times during the day. And over time, I was able to get to that really relaxed feeling within like 2 or 3 minutes of meditating. So it taught me that I was actually training my mind and training a muscle that I could use to be strong in this area of getting my mind to a calm state. And that was a tool that I didn't have before, and it's really served me since that time. So I want to share a very brief story about my good friend Eric Severinghaus when he was training to go climb Mount Everest, which was he summited almost exactly 2 years ago. So it's been it was about 6 months before that. He was out here in Colorado and doing some elevation training, and we did a bunch of hikes together. And we found ourselves in Vail for a couple of days doing some skiing, and there's this incredible backcountry ski exit gate at the top of Vail called the Minturn Mile. And it's called the Minturn Mile because you start at the top of Vail and you go out of this exit gate into the backcountry where you're not part of the resort anymore. And there's this big backcountry bowl that you can ski down that, again, if you're not familiar with backcountry skiing, I'll recommend to be very safe with this sort of thing. This is not in resort. And so you drop out into the backcountry and you've got to evaluate, backcountry avalanche risk and other types of risks. And it's about a 3.5 mile ski down and 4,000 vertical feet from the very top to the very bottom. And you ski out of this long valley after the bowl, along this creek bed, into the small town of Minturn, Colorado, which if you've ever been skiing in Colorado, it's pretty much halfway between Vail and Beaver Creek is where this little town is with a saloon. And so you can ski down and come eat peanuts and throw them on the floor and have a beer afterwards. And it's a pretty common tradition. Eric wanted a little extra training for what he might be experiencing on Mount Everest. And so we decided to do the Minturn Mile backwards, starting at the bottom, putting skins on the bottom of our skis so we could slide up the snow, and we would ski from the bottom to the top. Again, 3.5 miles of distance, 4,000 vertical feet. So there's a lot of gain on this route. And we started in kind of the late morning, maybe 10:30 a.m., maybe 10 a.m. And we knew that we had to get to the top of Vail and under this rope that allowed us to get to a chairlift that we could then ride to another peak to get over to the front side and down. And we had to get under that rope on the backside at the top of the mountain by around 3 o'clock, because that's when mountain operations stopped running the lifts. So if we didn't get there in that time, our only option was to ski back down the Minturn Mile, which where our car was. But even skiing down it is a great deal of effort. So we didn't want the additional challenge on top of what we were going to do. And the first mile coming up was pretty easy. We got pretty confident. It was actually a slow snow year out here, so we had dirt and we had to boot pack and boot hike the first maybe 200 yards, and then we got on snow, really inconsistent snow, some mud, some rocks, and then we got on solid snow, and the grade wasn't too steep. We're kind of on an old roadbed grade along a creek side, and we're climbing and we're climbing, and we're feeling great, and we get to this little lunch stop, and we have a snack, and it's about 12:30, about 1 o'clock. We know we've got 2 hours left, and we've covered most of the distance at this point. We're probably 3 miles in, and we can't see what's quite waiting for us around the next corner. And we're feeling good, the sun's out, and we're thinking this is gonna be an incredible day. And we turn the next corner, and we realize that the big face of the bowl is what's in front of us. And there's thick trees on either side. It doesn't look like a good route, so we decide to go right up the middle of the bowl. And what we quickly discover is that our skis won't hold the steepness. They start sliding, and we start sliding backwards. And so we take our skis off and put them on our packs. So now our packs are 30, 40, 50 pounds with skis on them, and we're in our ski boots, and we're trying to walk up this absolutely steep pitch in this backcountry bowl. And then what we find is that the snow is so soft that we're sinking up to our waist with every single step. It's like we're just flailing, and we end up on all fours on the ground, using our arms to try and pull us up the snow and trying to kick our feet down until they contact anything that we can push off of to push us up the mountain. Eric takes a route that's a little bit to the right of me, and I go a little bit to the left and stay along the trees on the left. And after a few minutes, I completely lose sight of him. And I start to get worried. I wonder if the avalanche conditions are more dangerous than we thought they were. And we're now sitting in the middle of this massive face of snow. What if something we do by stomping and sliding and pulling ourselves triggers this 1,000,000 pounds of snow on top of us to come down? And so I start to get worried. And so I shout for Eric and ask him how he's doing. Is he making progress? He's just out of sight on the side of some other trees, I think. And he doesn't respond. And we both just sit in this moment. We eventually reconnect and find a way to put our skis back on and do some very wide traverses. But it takes us about 30 minutes of just complete frustration, thinking that there's no way that we're gonna make it to the top. And we end up ducking under that rope inbounds at the top inside Vail Resort with just about 2 minutes left in the day. We take the skins off our skis, lock our heels down, and shoot down to the bottom of the lift and take the lift up Game Creek Bowl to the top and drop down the front back to where we're staying in Vail. And then we get in our car and go pick up our other car over in Minturn to finish the cycle for the day. And so what's so incredible about that memory for me, and what Eric shared after he then went on to summit Mount Everest about 6 months later, and stand at the top of the world for a couple minutes, was the training that he received around mental challenge in that moment. He knew he needed to be up at elevation. He knew he needed to be practicing on snow and hiking and snow safety, because he would need those things to eventually climb on glaciers and climb on snowfields to the top of Mount Everest. But what he also knew at the time was that he needed mental training around frustration and the type of situations he might get into where he would want to give up. And I can tell you, for about 20 minutes during the middle of the worst part of that challenge, I wanted to give up. I was scared that we were in real danger. He and I had both, probably ill-advised, taken slightly different routes up it, so we weren't in contact with each other. So I didn't know if he was safe. He didn't know if I was safe. It added to the intensity of the worry in that moment. And then to feel like, we were kind of helpless in those moments as I'm sliding into the snow deeper and deeper and trying to pull myself on all fours up the hill, and simply digging myself in deeper. I thought, I'm gonna have to be rescued from here. Like, this isn't working, and the harder I try, the worse it's actually getting. And it was an incredible experience with just feeling completely helpless in the moment and doing what I needed to do to get my mind back online again and back to calm again so that we could get to the top of the mountain. And much like the visualizations that I do in my morning priming routine, this was an incredible opportunity for both of us, but really Eric, who had this huge challenge coming up, to experience this level of hopelessness and frustration that he was likely to experience in his actual challenge on the mountain, which he shared that he definitely did multiple times when actually climbing Mount Everest. So this is why we do visualization. This is why we take the time to tell ourselves these stories around what is going to happen or what isn't going to happen. And it also allows us to go back and replay stories where we've had these experiences before. If we know that we're going to be up against something that's challenging or that's frustrating, we can go back and we can access these memories of the last time we experienced something with similar severity, with a similar situation, and play back that story for ourselves. We can relive that moment of feeling helpless and then thriving despite the challenge that we're in. That's the muscle that we're building, both physical and mental, through this process of visualization. So thank you so much for joining me for Morning Prime today. My name is Aaron Houghton. I do this once a week here live. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great week and have a great day today. Thank you.